Yep, that's the reason. Not because I cussed someone out. Not because I ruined last year's roast. Not because I owed anyone money or stole or insulted Grandma. No, my dog. Bailey, a 7-year-old golden retriever I adopted from a shelter, sheds. And apparently, her fur is a biohazard that triggers allergies, even though nobody had a single issue with her at Thanksgiving just a few weeks prior. Hi, I'm Jade Carter, 28, animal lover, graphic designer, and apparently the designated family scapegoat since birth. And the one who decided I'd had enough. The whole thing started 2 weeks before Christmas in the family group chat. You know, the kind that lights up 24/7 with memes, passive-aggressive updates, and an occasional, "Look what Karen cooked" photo dump. That's when I saw it. My older sister Melanie's message, just a heads up, for Christmas dinner this year we're asking guests not to bring pets. Bailey's fur got everywhere last time and Mom's been having sinus issues since. Thanks for understanding, that was it. No, hey Jade, can we talk about this? No phone call. Just a public group chat shaming, like I was the weird cousin who brings an iguana in her purse. So I replied, so you're uninviting me, because I'm not coming without Bailey. She's part of my family. Crickets. Then Melanie responded with the nail in the coffin. It's not personal. Just keeping things clean and comfortable this year. Hope you understand. Not personal. I'd helped her through her divorce. Took her kids' school shopping when she couldn't afford it. Even paid her damn phone bill last August when her ex flaked. But my dog sheds, so now I'm toxic. Mom chimed in with a week. Maybe we can do something after Christmas, honey. And my younger brother Liam just liked the messages and went back to being a spineless jellyfish. I didn't respond. I left the group chat. Melanie has always been the favorite, straight, a student, cheer captain. Married a dentist, drives a Range Rover, lives in the suburbs with a white picket fence and an actual Pinterest board for dinner tablescapes. I've always been the opposite. Tattoos, rescue pets, freelance jobs, hand-me-down furniture, and more blunt honesty than most people are comfortable with. But I didn't think she would actually exclude me over something so petty. Christmas was always our one unbreakable tradition. No matter the fights, no matter the drama, we always got together. I even drove home the year I had strep, wore a mask and everything, just so we could keep that tradition alive. But now, apparently a few golden hairs on the couch are enough to exile me. Fine, they wanted a pet. Free Christmas, they could have it. Sparkly, clean, sterile, and I'd make sure it was unforgettable. The thing is, I know things about my family, secrets, slips, skeletons that rattle quietly in the closet, and pray no one ever flings the door open. I never cared before. I loved them even when they were messy. But when someone weaponizes cleanliness as a way to erase you, you start looking at dirt differently. And Melanie's pristine little life, not as spotless as she pretends. The night of Christmas Eve, I lit a candle in my apartment, curled up with Bailey, and opened Instagram. Melanie had already posted a picture. Long table. Golden napkins. Cinnamon sticks tied in twine. #HashFamilyFirst. They looked so proud, so polished, so fake. I closed the app and stared at the wall. And that's when the idea hit me. Not cruel, not loud, but poetic. If they didn't want the dog, fine. I'd show them how ugly family can really get. Need a babysitter? Yes, last-minute airport run, sure. Borrow my car, here's the keys, cover your bill, no problem. And Melanie? She always knew it. It's funny how clear things become after one cold Christmas night alone with a glass of wine, and no one texting to say they missed you. After I left the group chat, the silence from my family was deafening. No one called, not Mom, not Liam, not even Aunt Paula, who used to send me Christmas cards with $5 bills tucked inside like I was still in high school. But the real twist. Melanie has always had this way of twisting the truth until it fit neatly into her curated little world, where everything sparkled and nothing ever smelled like dog hair or resentment. So when she said, "It's not personal," I knew it was personal. And I couldn't let it go. That night I grabbed a notebook and wrote the list across the front. I wasn't exactly planning revenge, not yet, but I needed to remember all the times I'd swallowed it down, bit my tongue, smiled through the slap, because looking back, the signs weren't just subtle. They were loud, screaming red flags I had ignored for years. Melanie's wedding was a circus. Hundreds of guests. Open bar, live band. She wanted everything to be Instagram. Perfect. And naturally, the registry looked like it belonged to a royal family. I couldn't afford anything on it, so I gave her a handmade photo album, pictures of us growing up, little notes, pressed flowers from our childhood yard. She opened it, smiled tight, and said, "Awa, sentimental, thanks." 2 weeks later, I found out she told people I didn't bring a gift from Mom. Mom said it casually, like I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. Melanie just wanted to erase the cheap gift from the record. Last spring, I landed a big freelance contract with a lifestyle magazine. My dream client. A month in, my editor suddenly grew distant. Assignments dried up. Emails were cold. Then I found out, through a mutual friend who still works there, that someone in my family had called them anonymously to raise concerns about my emotional stability. No proof it was Melanie, but the editor said the caller mentioned your sister's past anxiety issues. Melanie's the only one who knew, and she's the only one who's ever called my mental health a weakness. Once during a fight, she even said, "You love being broken. It makes you feel special." Mom's 60th birthday. I coordinated the whole thing. Decorations, catering, slideshow, even pitched in $300 to cover the band Melanie insisted we needed. Afterward, Liam told me Melanie had never paid her share, that she'd said Jade's already covering most of it. She doesn't mind. No apology. No payback. Nothing. Just another quiet debt brushed under the rug because Melanie's going through a lot. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern, a lifelong lesson I refused to learn. In the days after Christmas, something else started to eat at me. Mom had always defended Melanie. She'd say she was high-strung, or under pressure, or trying her best. But this time felt different. The silence was calculated, unnatural, like someone had told everyone not to engage. So I did something I hadn't done since I was 16. I called Dad. He left when I was 10, moved to Arizona, remarried, sent the occasional birthday card, not exactly Father of the Year, but he always liked me more than Melanie. So I figured, what the hell, hey, he said, surprised. "Jade, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "Just needed to talk to someone who doesn't think my dog is the Antichrist." That made him laugh. 20 minutes later, we were knee-deep in old family gossip and stale regrets. But then he said something that stuck in my ribs. "You know, your mom always said Melanie was the one with potential, but you were the one with heart. That scared her." "Scared her?" I asked. "She knew you couldn't be controlled." He said simply, "Melanie, you just had to give her what she wanted. You wanted truth." I didn't cry, but something inside me cracked. The next day, I got my first message. It was from Liam. "Hey, weird vibe at dinner this year. Felt wrong without you. I think Mel overstepped. Just saying." Short, careful, like he was testing the water. I didn't respond. A few hours later, a text from Mom. "Hope you're well, we missed you. Let's talk soon." Again, I said nothing. Because now they were reaching out after the posts, after Melanie's passive-aggressive, pet-free announcement. Too late. I was beginning to suspect something, though. Something deeper than favoritism or family politics. What if excluding me wasn't just about Bailey's fur, but about control, about maintaining an image, one I threatened just by existing? Messy, honest, unfiltered me, and I started to wonder. Back in my notebook, I made a new section, motives. I listed every reason Melanie might want me gone. I know about her old DUI she covered up. I know she's been using Mom's credit card for emergencies. I once overheard her on the phone talking about restructuring the will. That last one. I never told anyone, not even Bailey. The emotional weight of all this started to pull me under. The kind of slow drowning you don't notice until you're gulping water. I wasn't sleeping. I'd get up in the middle of the night and check my phone, half expecting another cold message from Melanie. Or worse, nothing at all. I kept replaying Christmas morning in my head. No laughter, No Bailey licking the frosting off Liam's plate. No Aunt Paula in her ridiculous jingle bell earrings. Just me, my dog, and an echo. I didn't miss the food. I missed the illusion that I mattered. Then one afternoon I opened Instagram again and saw another post from Melanie, a selfie, her holding a mug that said "Best Aunt Ever." The caption: "Not everyone deserves a seat at the table. Some people bring chaos, not joy. Hash boundaries, hash family first." That's when I decided this wasn't just about Christmas anymore. This was about truth, about pulling the ribbon off the perfect little lie and letting the world see the mess inside. They wanted peace, they'd get war. That dog was just the excuse. A clean, fluffy excuse with a tail and a golden coat. The truth was uglier than fur on the furniture. Darker than I ever let myself imagine. And it had been unfolding right in front of me for years. While I smiled, helped, forgave, until now, it started with the will, a passing comment. A scratch in the vinyl I couldn't unhear. Restructuring the will. I'd heard Melanie say it a year ago while on a call in Mom's kitchen. She was facing the fridge, sipping her oat milk latte, whispering into her phone. I had just walked in to grab some water, and I froze when I caught those 3 words. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and didn't care. At the time, I brushed it off. I figured she was venting about Mom being controlling again. Melanie always acted like she was the one holding everything together, even when she was the one unraveling it behind closed doors. But now, in the cold quiet of my apartment, I couldn't stop hearing that phrase. So I called my cousin, Nina, who works at a law firm downtown. Nina, hypothetically, if someone changed a will, would the other beneficiaries know? There was a long pause. Then, hypothetically, not necessarily, depends on the state and how it was done. If it's a trust and you're not a trustee, you might not even see the changes unless you ask for them. So, someone could remove a sibling from a will, and no one would know unless they got a lawyer. Pretty much. That's when I felt it, that slow, nauseating wave of realization. They didn't want me at Christmas because they knew I'd ask questions, because they knew I was the only one who might figure it out. I drove to Mom's house 2 days later. Bailey in the back seat, my hands shaking. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. When I pulled into the driveway, Melanie's Range Rover wasn't there. Good. Mom answered the door with her usual tired smile, confused but polite. She looked like she had aged 10 years into. "Jade," she said. "What are you? We need to talk," I said, stepping in before she could stop me. Bailey followed, wagging her tail like nothing had ever happened. We sat in the kitchen, the same table I'd eaten cereal at every morning before school. The same chair where Melanie once cut her own bangs and cried for 3 hours. Everything felt smaller now. I got right to it. "Did you change your will?" Her face froze, just for a second. But it was enough. "What?" She blinked. "Don't lie. I heard Melanie on the phone last year saying something about restructuring it. Did you take me out of it?" Mom's hands tightened around her mug. She didn't deny it, she just whispered, "You don't need to worry about that." Wrong answer. "Did you take me out?" I said louder. Bailey whimpered. I reached down, rubbed her head. My eyes never left Mom. "I didn't take you out completely." She started, eyes darting toward the hallway like someone might be listening. "It's just that Melanie has been helping me more lately with bills, the house, and well, we adjusted things so she'd get the house, that's all." "The house," I choked. "This house?" She nodded, like it was no big deal. I stood up. My legs felt like jello. "So you cut me out and gave everything to Melanie." "I didn't cut you out," she said quickly. "There's still something in there for you. A little money. But Melanie's name is on the house now. She needs the stability. You rent. You move around so much. So because I don't have a mortgage, I don't deserve anything." "It's not about deserving, Jade." "Then what is it about?" Silence. Then she said the one sentence I'll never forget. "Melanie just seems like the more responsible one." I laughed. I actually laughed, because it was either that or scream. "Melanie has been lying to you for years." I said. "She's been using your credit card. She didn't pay for the band at your birthday. She mouthed me to one of my clients, cost me a job, and she cut me out of Christmas because of my dog, Mom." Mom blinked fast. "She told me you were the one who backed out." My stomach twisted. She said you refused to come unless Bailey could sit at the dinner table. That was it. That was the moment I realized Melanie had rewritten everything. Even my absence. She wasn't just manipulating Mom. She was erasing me. I left without saying goodbye. I got in the car, drove half a block, then pulled over and screamed into the steering wheel until my throat went raw. I had always known Melanie was petty, competitive, a narcissist wrapped in a cashmere sweater, but this was calculated. This was war, and I was done playing nice. That night, I started digging. I pulled out every dusty file from the box of family paperwork I'd taken when Dad moved away. Old tax returns, copies of insurance policies, even photocopies of Mom's original will from 5 years ago. Sure enough, both Melanie and I were listed equally back then. 50 split, house, assets, everything, but now she'd handed it all to the golden child, the one with the fake smile and the weaponized charm. And I was the ghost they pretended not to see. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a message, not a text, a letter to the entire family. A carefully detailed, bullet-pointed breakdown of what Melanie had done, and what Mom had let her get away with. The money, the lies, the manipulation, the revised will, everything. I attached screenshots, receipts, copies of the original will, even a timeline of events showing how things shifted right after I started pulling away and standing up for myself. I didn't hit send, not yet, because I realized something. They weren't ready for the truth, not until it exploded, so I waited, watched, listened, and 2 weeks later, I got the message that changed everything. From Melanie, "Can we talk? Something's come up. We really need you back." Then, 3 minutes later, one from Mom, "Please call me. We need your help." I stared at my screen, heart pounding. What happened? What could possibly make them come crawling back after everything? I didn't know yet. But one thing was clear. The call came 2 days after Melanie's message. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail while I stood at the window, watching Bailey chase leaves in the wind like nothing had changed. Like the world hadn't tilted under my feet. I told myself I wouldn't listen to it. I told myself I didn't care. But at 2 a.m., with my stomach hollow and my mind chewing itself raw, I played it. "Jade, it's Mom. I don't even know how to say this. Your Aunt Paula had a fall. She's in the hospital. It's not looking good. Melanie's overwhelmed. We really need you. Please, call me." I stared at the wall. Aunt Paula, the one person who used to send me $5 bills in Christmas cards, the one who always remembered I was allergic to pineapple. The one who said I had old soul eyes and a heart that hurt too much for this world. She was the only adult who'd ever looked at me and seen someone worth defending. And now she might die. I sat down on the floor and buried my face in Bailey's fur. She smelled like peanut butter in winter, and that weird dog shampoo I could never quite rinse out. "I don't want to care," I whispered, but I did because I wasn't made like them. I couldn't just shut it off. Couldn't pretend that love wasn't real, even when it hurt like hell. That's when I realized something. They knew that. That's why they treated me the way they did. That's why I was easy to use, easy to cut out, easy to blame. I would always show up, always care, always put their needs above my own, because I had heart. The thing Dad said, the part about how I couldn't be controlled, that was never a compliment, not to them. It was a threat. And now, for the first time in my life, I saw the difference between love and control, between family and loyalty, between obligation and truth. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd relied on the fact that I'd never fight back. Until now. I drove to the hospital the next morning, not for Melanie, not for Mom, for Aunt Paula. She looked so small in that hospital bed. Pale, wires everywhere, hair flat against her head like she'd shed some invisible armor. The nurse said she was stable, but sleeping. I sat with her for an hour. I didn't speak, just held her hand. Then I opened my notebook, the one with the list on the front, and started a new page. I wasn't going to burn down the house. I was going to flip the lights on. Let them see their own reflection in the mirror I'd been holding up for years. 2 days later, I showed up at Melanie's front door. She answered like she hadn't expected me to actually come. "Oh," she said, blinking. "Hey, come in." Her voice was soft, sweet, like syrup over shattered glass. The Range Rover gleamed in the driveway. The porch had seasonal throw pillows. A little sign that said "Bless this mess," which was honestly a better warning label than she realized. Inside, everything smelled like cinnamon and stress. "Mom's on her way," she said. "I thought we could talk first." "I bet you did." I followed her into the kitchen. She had lemon water waiting, perfect. "Filtered, tasteless, thanks for coming," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "We've all been a little off lately." "Off," I repeated, "that what we're calling it." She exhaled through her nose. "Look, Jade, I know things got tense over Christmas, but emotions were high. I was trying to make things easier for everyone. By erasing me, I wasn't erasing you," she said, smiling like a politician. "You just weren't cooperating." There it was, the truth under the fake plants and curated countertops. "I know about the will," I said. She stilled. I watched her face shift, only slightly, but enough. The flicker of a mask slipping. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said too quickly. "You had Mom sign the house over to you. You told her I didn't care, that I backed out of Christmas, that I refused to come unless Bailey had her own seat at the table." She went quiet. Then she laughed, quiet and fake. "Jade, do you hear how paranoid that sounds?" I leaned forward. "I have the original will. I have emails, screenshots, a whole file, and I'm meeting with an estate attorney next week. You might want to make sure your paperwork's in order." Her smile died. "Finally, you wouldn't," she said. "Try me." She stood, arms crossed, suddenly less Pinterest. "Perfect and more pure threat. You've always wanted to blow things up, haven't you?" she said. "You think because you rescue dogs and write angry little posts online that you're some kind of truth teller? You're just bitter and jealous." "No," I said calmly. "I'm done. That's not bitterness. That's clarity." Melanie opened her mouth, but I stood. "I didn't come here to fight," I added. "Just wanted to give you a chance to clean it up quietly. Make it right. Tell Mom the truth. Restore the will. Apologize. And if I don't, then the whole family will know, not just about the will, about everything. You think they'll believe you over me?" "I don't care if they believe me," I said, walking toward the door. "I care that I believe me." That's when I knew I was different, not better, not unbroken, just done begging for a seat at a table that was built to collapse the moment I stood up. Outside, the sky was pink with dusk. Bailey waited in the car, head out the window, tail wagging. As I slid into the driver's seat, my phone buzzed. A text from Liam. I heard. "She told me not to say anything. I'm sorry, Jade. What do you want me to do?" For once, I didn't feel the need to reply right away. I looked at Bailey. I looked at the notebook on my passenger seat. I looked at the house behind me, where lies were curated like centerpieces. Then I whispered, "Whatever comes next." I'm not afraid of it. Because the truth, it didn't just hurt. It sharpened, and I wasn't the family's scapegoat anymore. I was the storm they'd invited in by pretending my silence meant surrender. For a long time, my plans had been reactive. Show up, apologize, bandage what they'd already ripped. This was different. It had to be. Revenge, I decided, wasn't about anger, breathing rage, or midnight threats. It was about patience, paper, and leverage. It was turning the little humiliations into evidence, and the curated lies into a pattern that couldn't be gaslit away. Step 1. Legal eyes. I told Nina everything. She didn't blink. She poured herself another black coffee and pulled out a yellow legal pad like she'd been waiting for this conversation her whole life. "You don't go public," she said bluntly. "Not yet. You collect, you preserve, you don't let anyone touch the documents. We subpoena only when we need to. If this is a will change, there will be signatures, dates, witnesses. There will be a deed transfer. There are always records." Listening to her felt like being handed a map when I'd only had a compass. She explained in clinical terms that steadied me how quiet pressure worked. Bank transfers, unsigned receipts, phone logs, a notary who didn't do their job. If we show a timeline, she said, people see the pattern. People stop seeing you as the hysteric and start seeing you as the injured party. Step 2. Paperwork and proof. I spent days in basements and attics. Dad's old boxes gave up photocopies of the will from 5 years ago. My name beside Melanie's, the house split down the middle. I found mortgage papers showing Mom still paid on the house, payments Mom admitted coming out of her account. The deed that should have matched the will changed. There was a county record online showing a transfer of title under Melanie's name. That was the smoking gun. It proved action had been taken. But record don't always mean motive. Motive needed texture. Step 3, financial threads. I called every number I had. Dad, Nina, even old neighbors. Dad sent me pictures of an envelope with receipts he'd found in Mom's purse, a credit card slip showing emergency payment at a furniture store, one Melanie loved because it matched the exact dining chairs she'd posted on Instagram. Another receipt showed a payment to a law office, conveniently around the same time the new deed was signed. I couldn't subpoena yet. I needed Mom comfortable enough to hand me statements. That required a different tactic. Empathy, patience, and unguarded moments. At the hospital, before Aunt Paula drifted in and out of sleep, I took Mom aside. I didn't accuse. I asked questions, soft and steady, until she told me things she hadn't said in years. Melanie helped with bills and asked for the house. Because she needed the stability. Mom's voice was small, so small it frightened me, and when she mentioned Melanie's trustworthy financial advice, I felt the edge of something worse than greed. I felt collusion. Step 4, witnesses and whispers. Liam was a test. I sent him a message. No pressure, just a nudge. Do you remember Mom's will? Did you ever see a change? He texted back slowly. He'd seen things, strange conversations on Mom's phone, receipts he'd assumed were Mom's, nothing decisive, but he was a crack, one I could widen. Dad was another. He hated confrontation, but loved me in a way no one else seemed to anymore. He admitted renting a storage unit once where he'd held old deeds. He said he'd seen Melanie in the house alone at odd hours, and once found an envelope with legal looking pages half tearing out. He hadn't opened them, but he'd noticed. That small admission was enough. People remember what they don't understand. Step 5, bait and mirror. This is the part I rehearsed alone in my apartment until the lines felt seamless. Melanie was careful. She curated everything. She reacted publicly to control the narrative, so I would give her a narrative to react to. But on my schedule, I drafted a fake new will email. Not real, not forged, phony enough to be plausible, obvious enough to be provable if she reacted. It included a dated header, polite legalese, and a throwaway line. Final draft for signature practice run for estate adjustments. I sent it to an anonymous burner address I'd set up, then whispered its existence to Nina so she could watch for any moves. If Melanie touched it, if she called, texted, or posted anything that referenced correcting misinformation or family drama, I'd have her response, a public act of damage control she couldn't later undo. People who lie usually clean up messes loudly. The cleaning becomes its own evidence. Step 6, public, private choreography. I made a calendar of moments where pressure would be most useful. A family brunch, Mom's annual winter tea, Aunt Paula's follow-up appointments, legal deadlines. I would throw small, subtle reveals into these moments. A printed copy of the original will in a lost envelope at brunch, a casually mentioned bank transfer to a neutral cousin, a recorded voicemail left by mistake. For Melanie, that Nina would help authenticate later. It was theater, quiet, cold theater. The goal wasn't to humiliate so much as to make the truth unavoidable. Still, I kept a coiled feeling in my chest. Melanie needed to feel in control. If she grew suspicious and dug into my files early, I'd have to accelerate or cut bait. So I let her posture, and I made certain she saw what looked like passive acceptance on my side. She posted like she always did, smiling with Mom, claiming family matters are delicate. She hosted dinners. She sent those little messages to Mom, "We're taking care of everything." The arrogance of it made me sick, but it was proof she wasn't hiding. She was acting like a queen who'd never be dethroned. Step 7, contingency. Everyone thinks revenge is a straight line. It isn't. It curves, trips, collapses. I had 2 backups, evidence copies stored with Nina, and a secondary plan to go public through a journalist friend who owed me a favor. Publicity could ruin me as easily as it could ruin them, so it was the emergency button only to be pressed if the legal route closed. The last piece I needed was time. Nina set an estate consultation for the end of the month. Plenty of time to collect, but not so much that Melanie could move things again. That week I moved like a shadow, scanning documents, making cold calls, recording voice memos of conversations that might be useful later, and cajoling Liam toward courage with small, steady nudges. I still had nights where I lay awake and the plan felt monstrous. I'd watch Bailey sleep and feel a guilt that comforted me. The dog didn't care about houses or wills. She loved me for being me. That love was a compass and a weapon. It kept me human and reminded me what I was fighting for. The trap, when it came, had to look accidental. So on a rainy Thursday, I did something I almost never do. I left a plain envelope in Melanie's mailbox. Inside was a photocopy of the old will and a sticky note. Remember when things used to be fair? Nothing explosive, no accusation, just enough to make a tidy woman like Melanie fidget. She called within an hour, Jade. She said, voice syrupy with a danger masked as concern. Did you leave that at my house? No, I said, someone wants you to remember. Her laugh was sharp. You're playing games. No, I said, I'm not, but I am telling you this, clean it up. Before someone else does it messily. She pretended not to tremble. She was still in control, but for the first time I heard breath behind the curtain. It wasn't fear, it was calculation. She was already thinking 10 moves ahead. Good. So was I. I hung up and texted Liam, if she calls you, say you never saw the envelope. It was a lie, but a necessary one. We weren't allies yet. Just players in a match where survival came first. That night, as I curated copies and double-checked timestamps, a message pinged from Mom. Can we talk? I'm scared. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. I'd wanted this, wanted the truth to come to light, but I hadn't wanted the part of truth that hurt my mother, her betrayal, her fear, so raw and present. I rubbed Bailey's head and wrote the next line in my notebook. Make Mom safe, make truth less lethal. This wasn't about spectacle. It was about peeling back layers until the rot was exposed and everyone had to make a choice, defend the lie or own the damage. Melanie still seemed in control. She had the house, the smile, the dinner parties, but control can be brittle. I was not going to break it with a sledgehammer. I'd pry at its seams, one hinge at a time. Silent, methodical, devastatingly exact. When the attorney appointment came, I would carry a folder thicker than her curated photo albums. And when I walked into that office, I would no longer be the family scapegoat. I would be the one who opened the door they'd slammed in my face for years. The storm wasn't public yet. It was still the breath before thunder. They called it a hearing, but the room felt like a stage. Overhead lights hummed too bright. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and old paper, like a place that devours small lives and spits out formal nouns. I clutched my folder, thicker than any photo album Melanie had ever posted, and watched as people took their seats. Nina at my left, her blazer too sharp. Dad in the back, looking older by years but steadier than I'd seen him in a long time. Liam fidgeting with his hands in the row behind us. Outside, a reporter's camera flashed like a heartbeat. Melanie arrived late, hair done, dress pressed, face a practiced porcelain. She smiled when she saw Mom and the rest of the room, an actor confident the audience believed her. I felt no tremor. There was only the exact hollow in my chest that comes before everything either collapses or holds. Jade Carter. The probate judge said, eyes like she'd been reading too many plots to be surprised by any of them. You filed petition to contest the deed and alleged undue influence affecting your mother's estate. Counsel, proceed. Nina stood. She didn't speak the way people do when they're softening the blow. She spoke like someone reciting facts that could not be argued away. We contend, she said, that Ms. Melanie Harper benefited from a transfer of title executed under circumstances of undue influence, several irregularities in notarization, and coincident financial transfers that materially altered Mrs. Carter's assets without the informed consent of the testator. She laid it out, the original will photocopy, the deed transfer record, the credit card slips, the payment to the law office, the notary who had apparently notarized documents while listed as out of the county that day. She produced emails, drafts of the practice run. Well, I'd sent to the burner account not to deceive the court, Nina had clarified. It was to show pattern and motive, and screenshots of Melanie's messages to Mom, the ones where she coached her into stability, language. Then Nina placed the kicker on the table. A recording. I had hesitated about that the longest. It felt like betrayal to play my mother's voice, but Mom had, with trembling hands and a clarity that stunned me, asked me to make it public if it would free her from Melanie's shadow. She said she was tired of lies. She said she wanted truth. The recording was short. Mom's voice, then close, said, "I don't understand the papers, Mel. I just signed because you say it's fine." Melanie's voice, calm, measured. "You don't need to worry. I'll handle it. Trust me, Mom. This is better for everyone." There was a pause. "Just sign here." The room breathed as if someone had opened a window. Melanie's lawyer rose. He dressed his words like armor. Technicalities, statute citations, presumptions of capacity. He called witnesses, the notary, who swore the procedure was correct, a real estate clerk who said the deed transfer matched county protocol. For a while, the courtroom felt even. Proof traded with denials like two dancers. Then Nina pulled the county records on the notary's cell phone ping. The location data didn't line up. The notary had signed off from address 3 towns over while the notary claimed to be at Mom's house. The clerk's records, too, had time stamps that contradicted the page on the deed. Paper that had been filed around midnight, printed at a shop 2 towns away. Coincidences stacked like a house of cards. Melanie's face was changing. The mask thinned into an expression I recognized from old fights. Someone calculating how to save the optics. She glanced at Mom, whose cheeks were wet, and then at me. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not the showy, scandalized fear of losing status. The raw, private panic of a person who'd built an empire on other people's goodwill. Nina's closing was clinical mercy. "We're not asking you to convict anyone of malice," she said softly. "We're asking you to see coercion where it exists. To see a beloved mother, frightened and advised poorly, sign away more than she understood. We offer corroboration, financial transfers traced to MS, Harper, patterns of pressure, recorded evidence of coaching. This is not a family dispute. It's a taking." The judge didn't slam a gavel like in movies. No gavel. Smash where everyone gasped. The real thing was smaller, a measured question, then a directive to the county to freeze the title transfer pending forensic review and to open an inquiry into the notary practices and the law firm's role. Outside the courtroom, the atmosphere snapped. Reporters circled like vultures. Melanie's Instagram notifications exploded. Someone had already screenshotted the recording and shared it. Within hours, her polished posts, stablescapes, smiling selfies, were captioned by strangers with a generosity I didn't expect. Is this the same woman who told her mother to sign away her house? Someone found a comment Melanie once left under a charity post. People who are always broke are choosing drama. And it trended for reasons I still didn't understand. Melanie confronted me in the hallway. "Like a shark, you used Mom. She hissed you. Sold her voice. You stole this." I looked at her. There was a softness to me now that hadn't been there at the start. A clarity that had nothing to do with victory and everything to do with truth. I didn't steal it. I said she gave it. She asked me to make it stop. You didn't see her. You heard her when it was convenient. Her hands shook. Her manicure, so carefully curated, had a hairline chip I noticed and filed away like a small victory. What followed wasn't clean justice. Melanie hired a new lawyer and filed counterclaims, accusing me of forgery, entrapment, even elder abuse. She cried on camera about family betrayal. She painted herself as the victim of a vindictive sister. Some people believed her. Old neighbors I'd once driven to the store called to say they were so sorry for the family. Social media tore itself into sides, but the forensic accountant Nina had subpoenaed found transactions, small at first, then larger, that funneled money from Mom's accounts to pay for Melanie's lifestyle, repairs, furniture, retainer fees at a lawyer's office. The law firm that handled the deed turned out to have clients with conflicts of interest. Investigator found a notary list that didn't match the signatures. The county froze the title. The bank reversed certain transfers pending investigation. Liam testified, finally, in front of the whole strange congregation that had been our family for years. He stood pale but steady. I saw receipts, he said. I thought it was Mom's. I didn't want to believe she'd let Mel do it. I didn't know what to do. He looked at me. I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner. That apology was like rain on a dry season. It didn't mend everything, but it watered the path forward. Aunt Paula, weak but lucid, squeezed my hand in the visitors' area as reporters chased the story. You did right, kiddo, she whispered. Sometimes, if you're the one that hurts, then you hurt for all of us. In the days after, Melanie's empire unraveled in incremental, exquisite ways. Her Range Rover got an unpaid ticket lien. A credit company froze accounts when auditors flagged unusual transfers. Her friends, those who had a stake in image, drifted away quietly, leaving comment sections full of polite silence. Worst for her, people who had once laughed with her at my chaos now saw the receipts stacked in a folder like witness stones. Mom sat with me in my apartment once the hearing closed. Her hands shook around a mug as if heat could steady bones. I thought she was helping. She said, voice raw, she said she'd take care of it. I thought I was being smart. You were scared, I said. She's the one who used that. I put my head on her shoulder, and for the first time since all of this started, the gesture felt true. Not everything got fixed. There were settlements and lawyers and nights I couldn't sleep, and a public humiliation that no amount of legal remedy could erase. Melanie didn't go to jail. The prosecutor's office moved slowly, and criminal charges were not guaranteed. The title remained frozen while forensic reviews completed their slow work. But the most important thing changed. The family could no longer pretend. Melanie lost control of the narrative because it turned out narratives are brittle when someone has the receipts. And me. I didn't get a house or a headline fortune. I got something quieter. The knowledge that I would no longer be the default giver. The invisible one you could lean on until the seams tore. I found unexpected allies, Dad, who agreed to help reconcile account statements. Liam, who started showing up. Nina, who moved my papers into a secured safe deposit box. On a raw morning, I drove by Mom's house, windows dark, A for sale, sign half, bent. The house would take time to heal, so would we. But when I closed my eyes, I could still hear Aunt Paula's whisper, and I could still feel the exactness of the shift inside me. From mute, apologetic child to something like a person who could stand in the light and speak. Melanie, she squinted at the new world like someone reading a bad review of a life she'd thought advertised as perfect. The image had cracked. The table she'd set so carefully was now scattered with receipts and subpoenas instead of cinnamon sticks. There wasn't a clean bow. There was instead a slow, satisfying dismantling that matched the betrayal, methodical, legal, and uncomfortably visible. Revenge had been paper and patience and the courage to let the truth have its moment. And when the cameras left and the dust settled, Bailey jumped into my lap and licked my face like nothing had happened at all. I laughed and cried at the same time, which was a good, ugly noise, and the sound felt like the end of something and the exact, bright beginning of everything else. The headlines died down, the hashtags faded. Melanie Harper stopped trending, and so did I. Like all stories that don't involve celebrities or explosions, the world eventually moved on, but my world finally exhaled. It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. It wasn't like I woke up the day after the courtroom reckoning and felt whole again. No, the scars were still there, familiar, like old burns that only sting when the weather turns. But what did change was the silence. For the first time in years, it wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. The house, the one I was supposed to forget, was frozen in probate for months. Melanie tried to stall the review, but when the forensics team traced the financial manipulation and the notary fraud was confirmed, the judge signed off on an asset freeze. The title was stripped from her name. She lost the house, worse, she lost her image, clients dropped her. The mommy blog collab she'd spent years curating deleted her profile quietly. Suburban Facebook groups unfriended her. She tried to rebrand herself, a woman wronged by family drama, but the internet remembered. Screenshots never die. Turns out when you weaponize boundaries to erase someone, you'd better pray that someone doesn't show the receipts. As for Mom, she started therapy. We've had long talks, painful ones, the kind where both of you cry for things that can't be undone. But there was something honest in the way she apologized, not just for the will or the house or the way she let Melanie orchestrate the Christmas exile, but for all of it. The subtle betrayals, the years of dismissing my voice as dramatic, while elevating Melanie's as responsible. We meet for lunch every Sunday now. She brings cookies for Bailey. Liam, quiet, soft-spoken Liam, started sending me memes again. It's his awkward way of showing affection, but I'll take it. He's apologized more than once. At first I didn't believe him, but over time, I started to see something real in his eyes, regret and shame, and a willingness to unlearn. The best part, no more family group chat. I started a new one. It's small, just me, Liam, Mom, and Aunt Paula. Sometimes Nina joins, sending wine emojis and screenshots of celebrity gossip. There are no passive-aggressive jabs. No rules about pet-free zones. Bailey is even the profile picture. She earned it. And Melanie, she moved out of state. Rumor is she tried to start over somewhere warm and forgettable. She deleted her social media. Changed her last name back to her maiden one. Tried to vanish quietly, but people talk and trust, once broken that publicly. Doesn't bounce back. Last I heard, she applied for a job at a local interior design firm. They Googled her, didn't hire her. Poetic, isn't it? The woman who built her brand on image, on appearances, on picture. Perfect holiday spreads. Undone by the one thing she couldn't curate, me. I built something new. A blog at first, then a podcast. How my dog got me disinvited from Christmas. And uncovered a decade of lies. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. The people who needed to hear it did. And to my surprise, thousands of others did too. Messages poured in. I was the scapegoat too. My sister sounds just like her. You told my story. Women, men, siblings, estranged sons, forgotten daughters. People exiled for being too loud, too soft, too emotional, too honest. People discarded by families who kept the golden child in gold and blamed the rest for the shine's cost. And I realized something. My story wasn't unique. It was epidemic. So I leaned in. Episodes rolled out weekly. Family gaslighting, invisible labor, the myth of the difficult daughter. We tackled it all, sometimes raw, sometimes funny, always honest. I didn't build revenge. I built community. Bailey became our unofficial mascot. She now has 42K followers. The poetic justice wasn't in Melanie's downfall. It was in my rise, in taking the exile and making it an empire, in taking the betrayal and turning it into a blueprint for others. See, families like to call people like us dramatic, too sensitive, but the truth. We were just inconvenient mirrors, and when a mirror finally speaks, it breaks the whole damn illusion. So here I am, 30, tattooed, still sleeping on hand, me-down furniture, and feeding a dog who sheds like a cotton would in July. But you know what? I've never been more at peace. No more fighting for a seat at a table that was never built for me. I built my own. It's messy, loud, covered in fur and crumbs and truth, and everyone's invited. Especially the ones who were told they weren't family enough. And now to you, yes, you, the one reading this, have you ever been the scapegoat, the black sheep, the one they blamed, excluded, silenced? Did you ever get told you were the problem, when all you did was stand in the way of someone else's illusion? If you've ever been betrayed by your own blood and made to feel like a burden for simply existing, drop a comment. Share your story. Subscribe if this hit a nerve. This isn't just my story anymore, it's ours.